Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I hope everyone is doing all right. Starting a little bit early this morning. I'm trying to get a few things finished up because I want to start getting some work done on a podcast. Let me say this first. If you enjoy the content, you can always support the content through Patreon, PayPal, or liking a video, sharing the video. All of those things are absolutely helpful to the channel. Also, Streamlabs. Streamlabs would allow a super chat alternative during or even when the show is not even on. I hate doing videos like this. Like, honest to God, hate doing videos like this. I'm a person. And as a person, I have certain political things that I want to get accomplished. And I am at the point where I have no belief in our political system working itself out. So, but that said, I don't have absolute knowledge. And I know for myself that there have been political changes that have taken place over the course of time. You know, even to the point of Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton. Those are monumental political changes that took place. Yes, minor changes along the way, but those things fundamentally transformed what it meant to be, let's say, a Republican or, at this point, a Democrat. The Thatcher era. Look, I said it to say this. As a person, I can see somebody and I can say, okay, here as a rational human being looking at a particular situation, and say, look, I think this person is earnest, and I think this person is trying to do decent things, and is, if we're being honest, a 20-something-year-old is thrown into this lion's pit of sorts. And then I'm stuck with the obligation of the show. And what I mean by that, this show takes a certain rule set when it looks at the world. And the rule set boils down to, here's the analysis of what's taking place in this particular political situation, regardless of who it is. Your person sitting on the moon, what do you see? That's it. Sometimes these things are in perfect alignment with one another, meaning I could say something about something and I feel a particular way about something, and as a person and as a show, and the world is great. There are other times where those things are remarkably in conflict, where as a person, there's certain things that I want, and there's certain things I believe in a roundabout way that, from the standpoint of the show, if I'm being honest, I don't necessarily want to talk about. And so we have this. And if I'm being honest, this is one of those things. I like Ocasio-Cortez. And all things being equal, I don't, this fake progressive stuff, I don't think that's necessarily a sensible way to look at that stuff. I think she is who she is. But at the same token, I can look at the world and say, what does it look like when a person is thrown into something where they're in somewhat of a bubble, and all of these people are whispering in their ear about what they should do, what's in their best interest, etc., etc., etc. And knowing that anything that you do is going to piss somebody off because there's no way to do anything that gets everybody on your side. And ultimately, you're in this situation where, all right, the best that I can do is lower the amount of people who hate my guts. Fair enough. That's a horrible situation for anybody to be in. I experienced that in doing this show, so I can imagine what it's like in doing politics. But I'm stuck with the obligations of the show. And, whatever you want to think about my opinion, I would make the point that the left is essentially a valley of broken things. And like many broken things, or I've always made the point that the left is the political equivalent of an abused spouse. Battered things tend to behave in certain ways. And the ways that they behave is not necessarily wrong. It is perfectly logical and rational for a being to behave in accordance to the environment. And you have a bunch of people that woke up. And for better or for worse, like many things, like wars and everything else, it's often the civilians that get killed. Look, I guess I'm making a point of this. The perspective that I have, I am what the Democratic Party built. Hello? And at this point, you're running as a Democrat. So the analysis of this, yes, is somewhat cynical. But I got to be honest, it's politics. And I'm more inclined to believe that from the standpoint of trying to get elected, that this analysis tends to be more right than not. But you be the judge. Nico House contacts the Ocasio-Cortez's camp. And now, I personally have sent messages to Ocasio-Cortez. This was, I think, before she was running, and I think maybe after. And I was snubbed. I'm not bitter about that at all. Not bitter one iota. I'm telling you that in no way about this am I bitter. No, seriously, I'm not bitter. No, I've hit her up, but whatever. Nico was able to get in contact with her campaign, and her campaign responded. Now, I did a video where I said sheepdog Ocasio-Cortez endorses Blue no matter who and Joe Crowley. I mean, not Joe Crowley, Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo in New York. And I showed the video of her on State of the Union talking to Jake Tapper. Jake, please don't raise my taxes, Tapper. Where she's out of nowhere says we need to vote for these guys, and we need to get these guys elected, including Cuomo. I made my point in the video of why I massively disagreed with this and why this is one of those things where it's check, please. Not necessarily on her as a candidacy, but more so on that particular strategy. Yeah, I am massively against that strategy. Now, Nico House essentially makes a point to her, very eloquently, mind you, and I mean that in a sincere way, of, and he did this, he says this better than I did, saying, look, you are putting lefties who are supporting you in a difficult position, because the rationale of the left has been a certain degree of integrity, or just call it like it is from the standpoint of a humanitarian standpoint, and to some degree honesty. Like, the honesty thing is a pushback of the nonsense that's the party itself. It's this thing where we just want people to be real people when they're talking, and I understand being real people kind of makes things rough, but I just mean, when Cory Booker was having this conversation with Andrew Gillum, and they're out there with the camera, like doing this with the camera and whatnot, and you're like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? All of the homeless people, why are you doing that? I don't want you to do that. That looks ridiculous. I just want you to be just be a person fighting for a particular thing. That's all I want. Now, I'm not saying this point for you. I'm just making the point that the left has gotten to that point of that's in its head, it's in its craw, and I got to be honest, I actually like that part about the left. I like that part about the left. I'm going to show the video. She walked back her comments, or at the very least, somebody in her campaign walked back her comments. The problem with the walk back is it implies reality is not reality, that blue is not blue, and that for whatever reason, up is not down, or something like up is down, left is right. Up is down, left is right. Like it's Orwellian in the way that this was given to Nico. Let's take a look at this. Don't take my word for this. This is the video itself. I apologize for the volume. The volume is not great. But I've asked my wife, I said, is this just me? Maybe I'm losing this. You hear it for yourself. You can hear for yourself. So let me flip this. And by the way, the original video that I took this from is no longer on the web. They got rid of the original video. Otherwise, I would be playing that. All right, so let's do this and this.
And a lot of down ballot candidates benefited from that. And what I also look forward to moving forward is us rallying behind all Democratic nominees, including the governor, to make sure that he wins in November.
All right. You heard that. Rally behind all Democrats and make sure that the governor wins in November. I guess the question becomes, is that an endorsement? Right? Let's take a look, listen to Nico in getting feedback from the campaign.
If there's any way for her to very clearly clarify why what she's doing and what she meant by that, it would be a great help. She's really put a lot of progressive journalists in a compromising position by endorsing him. So that's the text that I sent. And like I said, I like being as transparent as I can because I want you all to know where I'm coming from.
I'm not bitter at all. I'm not bitter at all. I'm joking. Let's let him play out.
Because at the end of the day, I am a progressive first. So, they responded with, Nico, to endorse someone means something in particular for us. AOC could support some things that Coumo has said he is going to, but that is not an endorsement. I want to clarify, I said standing behind, so it sounds like what you're saying is she's not endorsing, she's saying something totally different. She's saying that, quote unquote, standing behind is referring to the progressive policies that he may enact, not a full-throated endorsement. Correct. Yes, that is correct. She means to stand behind progressive policies and also the policies that other Democrats advocate for.
I'm sorry, that's not what I heard. Fair enough. If you want to make the argument that an endorsement is a very specific thing, fair enough. But I didn't hit her. I mean, and I know this is not about me. I'm just saying I didn't hit her on endorsement. I hit her on sheepdog and the vote blue no matter who thing. And she clearly articulated, play it again. This wasn't about Democratic policy, anything. She said, vote Democrat. Because I fundamentally disagree with her about this, yeah, I am picking a little thing about this because it would be wrong for me to some degree not to when I have a very specific political ideology that disagrees with this very particular point. Let's let her play it again. Play it again, Sam.
Including the governor to make sure that he wins in November. But, I think that what she did was that she centered a lot of phenomenal issues. She centered racial justice. She centered criminal justice reform. She centered the legalization of marijuana, single-payer health care, and a lot of down-ballot candidates benefited from that. And what I also look forward to moving forward is us rallying behind all Democratic nominees, including the governor, to make sure that he wins in November.
That's not, she didn't say policy. She said rally behind Democrats to make sure they win in November, including Coumo. Fair enough if you want to say that's not a technical endorsement, but I don't necessarily know what it matters. It sounds like an endorsement. Any regular human being that looks at that, particularly people who are supporting her, people who wanted something fundamentally different, in which case they put her as opposed to swamp creature Joe Crowley. To them, it looks like it says, go vote Crowley and vote, not Crowley, vote Coumo, and go put in Democrats. Because it says we need to rally behind Democrats and put them in office. Now, what Nico read flies in the face of reality from the standpoint of that. Don't take my word for it. You can look at it for yourself again. I don't know how many times you need to look at it, but she says very specifically vote Democrat. Vote blue no matter who, including Coumo. Now, look, from a political standpoint, there are two things. She has the men two ends. The lefties from the standpoint of people who are strong advocates, let's say the base, her base. She has to keep that intact. By the same token, that's a certain small population from the standpoint of the larger United States, or the larger, you could say, New York, that she has to get to vote for her, meaning the entirety of the people who are going to vote for her are going to well extend beyond what she would consider to be her base. Meaning, yeah, she needs lefties or Democrats to actually vote for her. She needs both to vote for her if she's going to win. In fact is, if there's a situation where she loses, oh my God, a seat that Joe Crowley has kept for God knows how long, if she loses, oh my God, how do you mend those two ends? How do you mend it? You have one part of the base that is antagonistic to the other part because it's been brutally abused and broken. How do you mend those two ends? So yeah, you will go on television show and say vote blue no matter who, because you need, or you at the very least believe that you need to take a particular line because everybody else is taking that particular line, and you need to stay in a particular frame of reference. Those are the people who are around you that telling you this is the political winds as they go. These are the things that you need to do for X reasons. And I would guarantee you that she believes she has to do these things, otherwise she wouldn't be doing these things. Simultaneously, you have a lefty network of her base who is like, oh my God, how are you just doing what everybody else has done in that particular position, even if you have a different political ideology? How are you just doing what everybody else is doing? And what does that mean from the standpoint of what she's going to do when she gets in that office? And should we continue to support such? How do you mend those two ends? So yeah, you have to take a particular cadence when you're on a television show. What is the reach of State of the Union and compared to the reach of Nico House? It is easy for them to give Nico House to say, hey, we didn't mean that. Our bad. Up is down, left is right. Our bad. Let us clarify and walk back the comments. I'm sorry to put you guys in a bad spot. Let us clarify and walk back the comments. So yeah, the people who are their strong base will hear the message of what they gave to Nico. Whereas the people who, for the most part, that they would need to vote for him will hear the message on State of the Union, especially particularly if they're a little bit more trending towards just a basic random Democrat. That's the politics. That's the context. That sounds, again, slightly cynical. I don't like to necessarily feel like a bad guy for saying stuff like this because I hate doing shows like this. Like I said, there's a conflict in what I want versus what the show to some degree demands. But at the point where somebody says, "Hey, here's Nico's response to this," where they responded to him, I listened to that clip and I'm like, there is no reality in what was just given. And if Paul Ryan had given something like that to the press, I would have looked at it and I would have did the exact same show that I'm doing now, saying, look at what they're saying. There's no reality to what's being said. Now, fair enough. I grasp the difficulty of the situation that she's in. Fair enough. So this is kind of why I don't like doing these shows. I would much prefer her, it feels better for me when I do a show and I'm like, yes, as opposed to here's an explanation of what's took place from somebody who I actually like. So yeah, fair enough. That's everything. I don't like necessarily doing shows like this, man. I gain no joy out of this at all. I'm sorry the clip is a little low, but let's see who's here. Look, let me